I specifically define resilience as springing forward with learning. That's how I would like people to really think about this resiliency word. Couple of reasons for that. I'm just personally not a fan of the term bounce back, essentially, because what it evokes for me is that a lot of people believe that they are only being resilient when they face into a challenging event. They'll face into it with whatever levels of resilience they have at that moment in time, and then go, right, I've faced into that. I'll now bounce back, go back to how I was beforehand. It's a bit of a subconscious, language and word and instruction. And I'm there going, okay, you can't go back. We can only move forward in life. So the resilient individual springs forward with learning into a better place. So it's very much about proactive resilience. Now, we absolutely will need to recover from life's events. So the resiliency is absolutely about something's happened and I need to recover from an adverse event. Doesn't always have to be negative, adverse. It can be something that was oh, that was a very, very special, nice surprise. However, I'm having to recover from it. So it doesn't always have to be negative when it's the word adverse. And then it's with learning. So how you role model that as an individual is that you have to make a choice from all of life's events to pause. And in those pauses, so listening to a podcast is a pause, having a chat with a mate is a pause, going for a walk is a pause, great conversation with your team is a pause. And in those pauses, ask yourself 3 questions. What have I been doing behaviorally recently that has served me well? What have I been doing behaviorally recently that has not been serving me well? And how can I do more of the answers to the first question?
In looking at resilience, do you feel like there are any myths out there that need debunking right at the top of this recording?
Yeah, so I don't want us to think about it as just keeping going regardless. And it's really challenging to those individuals that believe that they are only solely being resilient by just keeping going in difficult circumstances. They're the ones that it's trying to have a conversation with those ones to go, actually, there can be a better way. You don't necessarily have to be on this hamster wheel. You don't have to feel as though you are just hanging on, just surviving, just about coping. Because when the individual role models this pause and these reflections and engaging with their resilience wheel, then they get themselves into this thriving space. So I wanted to sort of shift away that people believing that they're only being resilient when surviving and coping. Sometimes we have to do that, but the resilient individual engages with building and growing and nurturing their personal resilience so that actually more often they can be thriving, even though we are in full-on difficult, challenging circumstances. You can actually legitimately turn and go, yeah, there's a huge amount of challenge going on and I'm good.
I'm wondering if you've seen any nuances when it comes to people working in values-based work. Prior to working in the energy space, I was deeply involved, for example, in more of the nonprofit sector, where you have people really working for causes that they believe in. And I remember hearing a lot about compassion fatigue at the time, that people were giving 120% because they really believed in it. However, they weren't necessarily creating or given the space to be resilient in that. So have you faced that over your career?
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. So, resilient, I talked about the resilience wheel. So 7 aspects to it. And without self-promotion, it's on my website, essentially. If anybody asks me, how do you build your resilience, Russell? It's like, play with your wheel, essentially. And so one of the aspects of wheels is people have a purpose. Okay. So a resilient individual, factually, logically, has a purpose, essentially. And there's no different ways in which you can tease it out. Those that are then in the sectors that we're talking about, sustainability, voluntary sector, third sector, we've fallen into the trap that there are fewer rewards for it, essentially. So we're not motivated by money as human beings. We might think we are. We need money to live, that too. But generally speaking, we're not motivated by money. But we seem to have fallen in the trap in the third sector in sustainability of actually, we can get all these kind-hearted people to just do all these things and not really reward them in any way, shape or form. And at some point, you're going to get fed up with that. and go, actually, why am I doing this? You know, because I'm trying to make the world a better place, but we seem to be investing the finances in continuing to do those things that potentially aren't making the world a better place. And that is a challenge for everybody in that sector to look at all of that and go, what decision am I going to make personally about? I'm going to keep going with this, understanding the circumstances, or not? And another lovely sentence that I can say is that a resilient individual is good at accepting with good grace those things that, they're going, I don't like this, or this has happened, or this is unfair. Another lovely sentence I can say is that resilient individuals cognitively know well and accept that life isn't fair. But it doesn't mean that they are suddenly upset or depressed, in inverted commas, as a consequence of it. They accept that with good grace and then move forward with learning and, are energized and thriving because they've found a way through it, essentially. But if there's been a chipping away at you for a long period of time, then actually, all of that ability to have this inner core of resilience gets chipped away at.
When we think about resilience, I know you also shape it in terms of reactive and proactive resilience. Can you share for our listeners what that might look like in their day to day?
Yeah, so the resilient individual, the leader, and the resilient team, they make the choice. They make the cognitive choice to engage with their resilience wheel on a regular basis, daily, weekly, monthly, because they understand the benefit to them. So, certain aspects, they're buzzwords to start with, Lauren, but, when you play around. So, heart resilience is attitude. You've got purpose, confidence, adaptability, support network, meaning, which is our internal storytelling, and energy, which is playing to our strengths. When an individual chooses to grow, nurture, play around with their resilience wheel, then they get themselves into this thrive space more often, essentially. So when I talk about resilience, my intention is not to add to anybody's feeling of overwhelm or to their feeling of like a mental to-do list, and that is a challenge in this space. If somebody's actually, their resilience levels are depleted and they present in a particular way, and you sort of go, okay, so there's some things that you can do about this, but it means there are some things that you're going to have to do. And at this moment in time, the idea of doing anything is no, thank you. But then the resilient individual, or the person that wants to be more resilient, understands the value and benefit to them and their lives of making the choice to play around with their resilience wheel and grow it and nurture it. And as a consequence, how they view life, the things that they choose to do, how aligned they feel, how much they feel as though they've got command of their environments, they've got influence over the things that they can, that all shifts into a better place. So you have to entice the individual to go, you may be here now, and if here is a world where it could be different, what's going to be your first step? Because that's where you want to get to.
Do you think storytelling is a big part of it? And I know that's also part of your work as well. Do you think that's one of the tools, or maybe there are others too, when we're navigating really uncertain times? And I don't know if there was honestly ever a time where it was certain, but it really does feel like from day to day, even if you just look at stock markets, it looks like every day is a new day, especially over the past couple of years. So are there ways for our listeners who are often business leaders or at least leaders within their teams to think about creating a space of resilience and stability even during a time of uncertainty?
Well, yeah, because it's making this decision and choice that you're going to engage with your wheel in some way, shape, or form that you find interesting and enjoyable on a regular basis. Now it's whatever's going to float somebody's boat. It's daily playing around your wheel will work for some. They actually, do you know what? Every couple of weeks, I'm going to play around with it. So, yeah, the main thing with actually being a coach is the most consistent piece of feedback I get from all clients is, the types of conversations I have with you, Russell, are just different to any other conversation I have because I pause and I reflect and I think. And so many clients go, we don't do that often enough, do we? And I'm sitting there going, no, we don't. And just going back to that uncertain times, that's where the VUCA piece comes in. So it's a model that's been around since the 1990s. Some people hate it, some people like it, some people have never heard of it. So I'm going to say 8 buzzwords now. So just fair, okay? But why I like this VUCA thing is that I walk into lots of rooms with people lots of times and go, so change is constant. And people nod their heads. And I go, right, we now need to unpick that, rather than just nod and move along. So the world we live in is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. To face into it, we need vision, understanding, clarity, and agility. Okay. And it's just like when you unpick each of those 8 words, leaders and individuals sort of go, oh, I get to understand an awful lot better why it changes constant. It's happening all of the time, everywhere, and in some way, shape, or form, it's impacting me. And this is how I'm going to face into it. And this is what I'm going to understand and make decisions and choices about where I go, what I look at, or what I ignore, because it's legitimate to ignore it. Yeah, so that's why I like the VUCA piece. And when you look at the capabilities and skills behind it, they all link to the resiliency piece as well.